Hey guys, it's Gray. So, as some of you may know or may have heard or seen in our previous videos, back in November of this last year, I had a heart attack. And so I just wanted to come on here and share my story. I'll be doing this in multiple parts, but sit tight and thank you so much for listening. So, back in 2008, after I had just turned 13, I was at track practice doing my first run of the day when I passed out at the end of a 100-meter sprint. My coaches didn't really think much of it, but my parents wanted me to get checked out at the doctor's just because something felt off. And I guess my doctors thought that it did too, because they ended up referring me to specialists at Seattle Children's Hospital. There, they did all kinds of tests over the next months, and eventually we got the call to come in. I prepared for the worst, but still somehow was not prepared when I found out that I had a rare heart disease. This heart disease is called catecholaminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, or CPVT for short. So basically, this condition makes it so that when your heart rate gets too high and you actually start getting extra beats from the bottom or the ventricular chamber of your heart. This causes your heart to kind of freak out and panic, which then causes it to go into cardiac arrest. And so my doctor kind of explained it as, with a normal heart rhythm, it's kind of like throwing a single pebble into a pond and you see a nice ripple out. But with CPVT, when your heart rate gets too high, it's like throwing a handful of pebbles into the pond, and it's like all these little ripples all over, and your heart kind of freaks out, and so then it just stops because it can't grasp onto anything, can't get back in sync. So is there a cure? No. Is there treatment? Well, kind of. So in what case, what can you do, right? Well, so your first line of defense is beta blockers. This is a medicine that you can take that lowers your heart rate by blocking the adrenaline receptors in your heart. By taking this medicine, your resting heart rate lowers and your ability to reach higher heart rates is no longer there. I mean, you still can, but it takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more effort than just if you weren't on them. Second is getting in tune with your body and restricting activity. So when I was 13 and got diagnosed, I was told that I would not be allowed to play any sports and that I most likely would never be able to run again. And so this just takes away any risk of an uncontrolled environment. I was basically told, walk and keep your heart rate below 120. So the last line of defense that you can kind of have is a pacemaker. So a pacemaker is a device that they implant into your chest and it connects to your heart. So it is continually monitoring your heart rate, as well as like any incidences or abnormalities that can happen 24/7. As well as if you have a cardiac event, it can send a shock to your heart to restart it. Rather than getting like the defibrillator, it's like an implanted defibrillator basically. And so the only problem with this when treating CPVT is that if it goes off on accident, if it detects an abnormality or an attack when there actually isn't one, that can actually send someone, the shock that it gives you can actually send someone into a CPVT heart attack because of the adrenaline that is sent throughout the body with the unnecessary shock. But this is why it's not always placed in everyone to start. If you haven't had a lot of incidences, or like in my case, I'd only had one where I passed out because my heart got out of rhythm, but was able to maintain enough to stay alive, I guess, but not enough to stay conscious. So I was able to have this disease managed for 16 years without another cardiac event. But then on November 8th, 2023, I had a cardiac event that sent me into cardiac arrest, where I was dead for over 35 minutes before they were able to get me stable enough to move me to the hospital. I would love to share more of my story with you, and am so grateful to you for taking the time to listen to my story. Thank you again, and welcome to Gray's Corner.